Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so it's another beautiful day, and yeah, hope we're able to go through the last week classes, both the videos and like exercise it ourselves, and if there are any issues, please feel free to mention them now before we proceed to today's class. So if you encountered any issue, could you please just raise your hand and then we can take it up. Okay. Yes, too. Okay, Chante, please proceed.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Mr. Abramu.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. So, yeah, I had an issue. The email, I don't know if you're the one that sent for the Excel sheet for week 1. It wasn't downloading for me. Yeah, and the screenshot was saying that let me see. The screenshot was saying that Excel cannot open the file with one exercise Excel class because the file format or file extension is not valid. Verify that the file has not been corrupted.
Wow, okay, that's surprising. Did anyone encounter the same issue so that we can know if it's the file or perhaps the way you downloaded it and then it's having something to do with it from your hand? So did anybody had issue opening the file? That's last week file.
The one you sent on the Slack, it opens for me, but the one they sent on the email for week 1 did not open.
Okay. Okay, so just a minute then. That's unfortunate, but I'm going to share the one for week 1 on the Slack portal as well, so we can visit it later after today's class.
Okay.
Sorry about the inconvenience and the hand.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, just to check it again. A minute, please. Yes. Okay. Yes, so I've shared it on the Slack portal. You can access it after the class. Sorry about that again. Yes, so Gladys.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. A pleasure. Gladys, is it the same issue? Because I can see your hand has been.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much as well.
Thank you. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. I guess in the absence of none, we can proceed with today's class. That's the next screen. Okay, so good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. Just simply good day. Your trusts these are going well. So as mentioned from last week, we mostly dealt with letters. So we're using functions that were dealing with letters mostly. That was like splitting letters, that is word text files, joining them back together, restructuring them again in a preferred way. So whether it had to do with the proper form, the uppercase, the lowercase, trimming of the functions, and after that we did concatenating, which was joining text files as well together. So as we could see from last week's exercise, there are most likely more than one function to do a simple task. Let me put it that way. In Excel, if you want to do something, so don't be restricted. For some of the splitting word tasks, there are other functions like text split. So that was a new function that was just developed by Excel. So we have functions like text split. It's just the same word. You just need to type like text split. And it already tells you like, this is the function. So split text into rows or columns using delimiters. So we won't be diving into that, but just to be sure that there are more than one ways to do simple tasks, let's put it that way. And then the more complex your task is, you might be needing to involve multiple functions in doing a particular task, and then just always try to use the help page if you're not sure of it, and then you can always check the syntax as well with the help page. But Excel helps by showing the moment you write the function, it tells you what you're going to be needing to enter like section by section. So without further ado, for this week, we'll be dealing more with number addition calculations. So we dealt more with text. For this week, we'll be dealing with more numbers. Are you not seeing my screen? Noisy place, yeah. I can see a text saying you're not seeing my screen. Is my screen not visible?
Yes, it is not in my side.
Yeah, so basically we are just seeing by the Slack channel. So we are not seeing what you're explaining, like what you were explaining a while ago.
Okay, I'll stop sharing. Let me start again. Can you see an Excel sheet now?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Thanks for calling my attention to that. Okay, so generally last week we dealt with text files, and this week we'll be dealing with numbers. So like I said, just a recall from what we did last week. If we try the proper function, you can type it in full to call a function. Excel is not sensitive whether you write it in small letter or in capital letter. At the end of the day, Excel changes it to capital letter by itself. Like once you're done entering it, it just keeps it in that form. So it's not case sensitive in this sense whereby, if I had written it in small letter, it's not identifying that it's the same function. So the moment we typed it in, you can see like here, a text file, an information file, telling us what this function does. So it converts a text string to proper case, that is keeping the first letter in a capitalized manner and the rest in small cases. Yeah, that is lowercase. So this is just an example, and always refer back to the help function. So for today, we'll be dealing with numbers, and then how to calculate if you're looking for number. So for today's class, we'll be starting with a function called lookup. So just like the word says itself, it looks up. So if you have an array, this is a data. Also, I downloaded data, it was available online. So this is a data. Let's say this is a university, you're dealing with student data. You have the student ID, you have their last name, you have their first name, we have the program the student is studying at the uni, and then we have the course. So if you're to compute the fee for the student, and then you're given a separate file. So we have the student data here. We can always check. Please try to mute yourself when you join in. So we can always check the number of destined data we have. We can just shift control the down arrow, and then we can see the number of rows here. Don't forget the header was occupying the first row, so minus the header row, we have 288, which is also confirmed here, 288. And as we did last week, we use the count function, which we can always do. So just equal to count. And as we can see here, it counts the number of cells in a range. So depending on, you just need to show it's the range of values. So we want to count from the first value to consider, and not, this is last name is the header. So this is the first value under last name all the way down. And you just need to close it to show the range. And then we have, where is it not counting? Count. That should be an issue. Values. Or then it must be an issue with text file, because when we move to numbers, that's value, it counted it, but it didn't count under the text file. So that's the count function. And for today, we'll be looking at the lookup function, as I earlier mentioned. So there are mainly two types of the lookup function. One is called the VLOOKUP. The other one is called the XLOOKUP. So this is just simply it's X, and you write lookup. So the moment you write lookup, it tells you it searches for a range, or it searches an array for a match and returns the corresponding value. And what this means is, from the English word lookup, in this case, we have this range of data, that is the students, we have their last name and their first name. We have the program they're studying. But then this is an institution whereby for every course, the price is not the same. So there is not a balanced fee or a standard fee. For each individuals, we need to go and check their fee and then write the fee based on the corresponding program the person is studying. So we have another worksheet which has the programs and the fee for the program. Of course, don't be too concerned about this fee. It's not a realistic amount, but it's going to serve the purpose of this exercise. So we can see here we have the program anthropology, and if we go back to, we should see a student studying anthropology somewhere down the line. Yep, so we can see someone studying anthropology. So now is to find these values. And so a wise thing is, it's going to be stupid to start looking at biology. Then you come here, oh, biology is 27. Come back here, type in 27. That's going to take a long while. Here we are dealing with 288 students. If we'll be dealing with more than that, that's going to be taking longer hours as well. So the function we're going to start with today is called the VLOOKUP. V, so you just type it V, then the word look up. Don't forget, we need to start with the equal to, because it's the initiator that tells the Excel that we're about to enter a formula or a function. So we just type the function VLOOKUP. Sometimes you don't need to complete the function, because the moment you're typing it and it's the only one, from this you can just press the tab and it completes it. So as I said earlier, Excel already turned it to an uppercase because this is the preferred way, but then it's not going to reject your own if you write it in small case. So after entering the lookup, VLOOKUP, that's the function we want to use. We can see the arguments. These inside the bracket are more or less like the argument, or the set of information Excel wants us to enter from range to range. So the first one was the function itself. Now it has bolded the word that look up. So what do you want to look up? That's the question. That is lookup value. What are we looking up? We want to look for the cost of biology, right? Which is going to be, it's identifying, it's referencing the cell now. Don't forget, it's in column E, row 2. So that's why it's referencing it as 2, comma. The moment we entered comma, it showed we are done with this one. It's entering the next one, which is saying what? Was the table array. That is, this information you're looking for, where is it? Where is the table that contains this information? Don't forget, it's not on this page, so we can simply go here. The moment you click on free, you can see it's showing a free with the exclamation mark, which is to show that it's changing the worksheet. It's no longer on the original worksheet. We are now on the fee worksheet, and that's the name of this worksheet. To show the range, we need to include all these, so down. So I just clicked on the first 2 cells, Control Shift and the down arrow just to contain everything within the cell. I hope we are not having issues with the screen size today. So this is to show that everything within that table has been read. So it's asking for a table array, not just where we are looking for, but the entire table. So after entering the entire table, which is a table array, we can enter our comma again. And the next information is called the column index number. So what is asking about the column index number is telling you is that the value you want it to return, where should it look for it from? Don't forget, this is column 1, that's A, and the second column, which is B. So to answer the question, we just need to write 2 because it's in 1, 2. So it's in column 2, that's where you should look for the answer. Then the matching, what do we want it to look for? Do you want it to look for an approximate match? That is something that is looking similar to biology. So let's say in a situation whereby we have something like maybe biological studies or something that has the name biology in it, then it's going to consider it as well as one of the options when selecting. But in this case, we want it to be exact. Just look for the exact word that we specify. Don't look for something similar to it. Just go for the exact word. So that's why, or in a case whereby, let's say we have something like computer science, we have computer engineering, and in that situation, it's going to be having issues like, yeah, it's going to be selecting probably the first one is locating on the list. So in order to avoid mistakes, there are times whereby you need approximate match. There are times whereby you need just the exact match. In this case, it's the exact match. So we can double click on that and it includes it. So it's false. It means that look for the exact number. We close the VLOOKUP function and we press equal to. So as we can see now for biology, it's saying the price is what? 27. And if we go to fee, you can see for biology, it's truly $27. So this is how you look up a function. The table can be beside it, but I decided to go with this example because it shows us how we deal with multiple sheets. Even though they are within the same file, you can operate on one sheet by taking information from another sheet. So in order to transfer this information all the way down, it's going to be time wasting if we had to start entering this formula every now and then. And like I said, since this is a continuation of a table, we can pass it down. But if we pass it down, it could affect our range. Why? Look at, if you're looking at the formula above here, I don't know if there's a way to bolding this. If you're looking at the formula above here, look at the fee range. The fee range is from A1 to B4. Or a better way to do it is, right now, I'm up here and it is showing the highlighted information. E2 is biology, which is highlighted. And then A change in sheet is affecting. It's not depicting what I wanted to show. But let's just follow up from it. So looking at the table array that we referenced is referencing here from A1 to B24. When we drag it down to replicate it for the second one, if we click on it, yeah, it has changed the looking up criteria, that is the value for it to look up. It has changed it to geology, but there is an issue with the referencing of the fee because it had moved from A2 to B25. The index is still 2, which is right. The last argument, that is the lookup range, match is still false, that is exact, but it is saying A2 to B25. Let's take note of that, please. So this is A2, forget this is A2, which means A2 to B25. That means it is including this last column, which is empty, and it is missing out on this top column. So the further we go below, if we go to this one, we're going to see it is now A3 to B26, which means from A3 here downward. It's not including 2 extra columns. So in a situation whereby, yes, if we continue like that, if we have a course that has to do with anthropology, the price is not going to show. Why? Because it's not considering it in the table array. So this is what we need to do here is what we call absolute referencing. We need to make sure that the table array, that is this, it's fixed. It is not moving anywhere at all. That it is fixed and it is not fluctuating. For every one, it must stay between A1 to B24. So in order to do this, there's a short key for that. You just need to press the F4, which is the function F on your keyboard, so the F4. If your F4 is not working by itself, you might need to press maybe the function key, then press F4 to initiate it. So just the moment you press that, you're going to see it is surrounded by the $sign. So the $sign is telling it that for row A, which is the first one as explained last week, don't go away from that column. In front of the number, don't go away from that row, and same thing for the entire range. So by applying it this way, we have been able to keep it that, yes, don't change. And if we drag it down, the values are the same because luckily here we are not affected by the range for any of our values. But if we can see here, the range is A1 and still to B24. So we are maintaining the desired range of our table and not shifting to any other one. So we can just simply come down here and double click. So it's replicated all the way down to the last value. The function we just dealt with is called the VLOOKUP function. So we had to do all this within a few minutes without having to check for everyone individually. So what we just needed to do was the absolute referencing of the table array. And then for everyone, that is for the lookup value, that one is allowed to change because we want it to keep changing for the same column, but it should be changing from one row to the other. And that's why if you look at it, you have E17 as the criteria here, which corresponds to health, and E17. For the next one, it changes to E18. Are there any questions on VLOOKUP?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, please. Go on.
I'm sorry, you said something about using the F4 key. Please, can you just go back on that?
Okay.
To get the $sign.
Yes, so it's not this $sign, but this $sign, the one in the formula.
Yes,
so
I know.
You just need to go to, okay, you can undo it as well. So I have this to be the range, which I'm highlighting here. So you just press F4, it changes it. So this is depending on the values you're changing, but this is the way we had it initially. So without the $sign. And the reason was because when we moved down, it was changing the location. So in order to do so, the problem you might be having is you press the F4 and it did not add it. So you might have a key on your keyboard with the with the abbreviation FN, which means function. So it means for your keyboard, before you can use the function key, you need to press that FN first before you can press the F4. So if you do both, it should work, I believe. So F4 and that will be referenced again.
Okay, thank you.
So that answers it. Was it solved?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. So that is how to do absolute referencing. So this is for VLOOKUP. However, VLOOKUP doesn't work in all situations. Why? Because VLOOKUP works when the array you wanted to look for, that is in this case biology, is in the first column, or whichever range of table you are showing it, what you wanted to look for is in the first column, and the value you wanted to extract is in the last column. The moment there are multiple columns, VLOOKUP won't give you the answer. And that's why VLOOKUP is not the only lookup function. There's another lookup function that is simply just look up. But for now, we are going to move to the lookup function called XLOOKUP. So, oh, there's a question for Queen. Yeah, please. Sorry.
Please, can you do a recap on the VLOOKUP? I don't really get it.
Okay. So
yes, please. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So to answer that, initiate it again with the equal to. You're welcome. So VLOOKUP, we write the function name. You can press the tab, it completes it. So the first argument is asking us to bring in is the lookup value. What do we want to look up? We know we had the courses, we didn't know the fee. And they told us the fee is on a different sheet, which has the program name and then the fee. So on this sheet, what we know is the program name. We don't know the fee. But on this sheet, we have the fee, we have the program as well as their corresponding fee. So since we know a value, which is the program, and on this page, we have the program. What we are trying to tell Excel is that, Excel, I know this value. Go and look for the corresponding value attached to it. Yeah, so we are telling Excel to go and look for the fee of biology from this fee table without having to do everything one by one. So we know the name, biology, and we know biology is on that sheet with a fee. So go and look for biology on that sheet and bring the value that is attached to biology. So as we can see on this field, we have biology here on one cell and we have the fee on another cell. So the first argument, as I said, is the lookup value. We know what? We know biology, okay? Biology. So what it is doing here is just referencing the cell. By the student in front of it is just to show that it's on this sheet, student sheet. We can remove that. It doesn't do much to it, but we leave it. So the next argument is what is the table array? The table array says that where should we go and look for this value from? So which is taking us to the next sheet, which is this. So we want it to go and look for the value on this table. And once it says the table array, that means the entire table. So we just need to include the entire table. So just Control Shift all the way down. And as we can see now, the entire table is like, it's showing a broken line around it, just to indicate that that's what we have selected. So as you can see, A1, you can see this one has also been referenced to fees, that is on sheet fees, from A1, which is A1, to B24, that is the last cell with an information. B24. So with that, we close it. We have included the table array, closed. We can see the next bolded one is what? The column index number. So the column index number is saying the answer you want VLOOKUP to return, on what column of the table array, which this is the table array, on what column is that value on? We know this is column A, this is column B. We know biology, we are looking for the phi, which is on the B column. But number-wise, this is 1 and this is 2. So that's why we are entering 2. To show is that the answer we want you to return is not in the first column, it's in the second one. Then the last argument we are including here is the range lookup. That is, do you want you to look out for something that is exactly biology and not something that just has biology in the word? So an example I used earlier is, let's say we have a course that's like computer science, and then we have another one that is like computer engineering. Most likely the VLOOKUP function is going to return the one that is the first on the list. If we use approximate match, or even if we have computer science here only, and we have computer engineering over there, VLOOKUP is still going to return the answer of the computer science here to be the phi for the computer engineering. Why? Because we said approximate, that means it is not the exact. Approximate means it's close to and not the exact figure. But to show the exact figure, you just need to click on, you can either type in the first or just double click on it here, and it includes it as the last argument. And we just need to close the array and press the enter button. So by doing that, we have this as number here. We can always copy the syntax by just saying the, what's it called? The format painter. So an example is here, you could just say, copy the format painter and apply it to here, and it shows it in the same manner. Hope that answers the question.
Yes, Mr. Kaza, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, Oni's hand is still up. You can ask your question on, please. My audio is low. Perhaps you should check at your hand. Is it that low? You can see a comment saying my audio is low.
No, it's not. I messaged that already.
Okay, perhaps it's from my hand. Thank you very much. Yeah. Oni, please ask your question, only if it has been answered. I guess the question has been answered. So that will be for VLOOKUP, it's just to look up the value. But like I said, VLOOKUP doesn't work in all situations because, as we can see in this situation, it requires the value that you want to look up to be in the last cell, and as well as your criteria to be the first in the last column rather, and the criteria should be in the first column within the range you're looking for. We are going to see that when we go to the XLOOKUP. So now we are going to the XLOOKUP. I do not see any hands raised. So this is the XLOOKUP. Let's have a small arrange this thing. So we have some students. In this case, we have their maths, their physics and chemistry results. So over 100, we can see their results already entered, like yeah, just general values. And now we want to look for the math score of NED, which is on this thing, row 3. So it's math, physics, and chemistry score. Instead of looking for it, now we have a small table. We can easily use our eye to search for it and say, yeah, Ned, what's your math score? It's 67 rather. There's a function that makes it faster to do that. So we just write equal to initiate again. The function is XLOOKUP. And the moment we start typing it, we can see the information again. It searches a range or an array for a match and returns what the corresponding item from a second range or array. By default, an exact match is used. So it's sounding similar to the VLOOKUP. Yeah, they are similar, but XLOOKUP is more dynamic than VLOOKUP because it allows for operation in some situations whereby VLOOKUP wouldn't work at all. So this is it. So we just, tab to complete the function. Here also is telling us what's the lookup value. What do we want you to look up? We want you to look up what? The match results for NED, right? So look up the value NED. Upon entering the frame NED, we can see it has recorded the name by using the reference F2. So we can, enter a comma to move to the next argument, which is what? The lookup array. That is, where should they look for this value that we just said, NED? Unlike VLOOKUP, we don't set the entire range. So we tell the range, look for it under what? Names, because that's where NED is. So look for it under names. That's where NED is. We enter the comma and return what? Now, this is where we return the array. Yeah, it's not saying return the value, but an array. So where should it return from? It's under math. So the value must be between this range. So look up the value. Where is the value range? That is, look for NED, look for it under names. What you want you to return, we want you to return something from under maths, which is the math score. We close that as well. And as you can see this, it's like here, referencing those cells. Because of the positioning of the formula, we are covering the value, like the entry NED. So the next thing it's saying is that if I don't find this number you are saying I should look up, which we are not seeing that in VLOOKUP. So, but now it's asking us that if I don't find this number, what do you want me to do? At the moment, we can just ignore it and say, just press another comma. So which means we are leaving that place empty, that don't do anything, just don't do anything. We are going to edit that later, but for now, like here, just tell it, don't do anything. So now it's also the same thing. What match mode should it be? Should it be an exact match? Should it be a match, exact match, or the next smaller number, or the next larger number, or a wildcard? So in this case, we want an exact match as well. So we choose 0. Instead of true and false here, it's going by the number, so we can see it again. 0 represents exact match, -1 exact or smaller than the number we are referring to. 1 is exact match or a larger number, and 2 is a wildcard character. For the wildcard character, just a small hint. Asterisk, which we use for multiplication, when we put it in a string, it becomes a wildcard character, but we're going to discuss more on that if we get an example to discuss that. So in this case, we just put a 0 or double click on it. So we want an exact match, comma. Now we have left the exact match range now. So when you see it in these options whereby, yes, there's a distance, there's a, what is it called? It is a box bracket around it. It's telling you that it is optional. So there are things you can ignore, that they are not compulsory to the formula. If we did not include these two, Excel will tell us automatically that it's wrong, that we've not entered the formula. So let's just show something like that. For the return array, it's a compulsory part of the formula, and these ones are optional. So let's remove the return array. Let's close it. And then we are getting an error that too few arguments, because it's expecting us to enter more than this. So that was just to show us. That was just to show us the function of. So once again, where you should look for the value. Sorry now. That's where you should look for the value of NED. And where you should return the value from, return it from maths. And if you don't find it, it's not compulsory. That's why we ignored it. Here we want it to be the exact match, so we'll include it 0, or just double click on it, and we can close it, and we say, look for the value. So as we can see here, it returned the math score of NED without us having to go into it. It's the exact match. It looked through the entire table. What's the person's name? Oh, the value is NED. Oh, this is his mark. And this helps in making it easy. We can easily change the name without having to do much with the function. So we've already generated the function, and we want to look for others' score. So what is Mark's score? We just need to type in the name here. So Mark, and we can see the result. So it automatically goes back to this cell because we didn't enter the exact word. We only reference this cell in our initial argument. So anything that is here, it goes to search for the math score, which is correct. For Mark, it is 87. So if we enter the name Pam, we get Pam's score, which is what? 99. John, we get John's score, which is what? 80. For this function, we can also use VLOOKUP, and VLOOKUP is going to work. So VLOOKUP, what's the value we want you to look for? Look for John. In this case, the table array. So the table array will be this. What column is the value in is still in the second one as well. Second one, 2. Do we want the exact match? Yes, exact match, please. And we have the value as well. Centralizing it is just to enter it here and it will be centralized. So that doesn't do much for it. So this is to show that for these stacks, a VLOOKUP works well as much as an XLOOKUP. So if we change it, so which name have we now used? We also have the same answer, 26. So for this example, a VLOOKUP and an XLOOKUP, as we can see, VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP are working perfectly well for this function. Then for another example, this is a similar table, but now we have changed the locations of the table. So the name was the first column in the previous table, as we can see here, but now it's the last column in this table. So we have maths, physics, chemistry, then the names. Generally, you won't structure a name like this. Like you won't structure a table with the name to be on the last column, but then it could be a value, just a general value, probably the student status or something, and you're needing this as a reference point. So for VLOOKUP, for XLOOKUP, the function still works perfectly. We have our function. What value do you want you to look for? Look for Jenny. Where do you want you to look for Jenny from? Still here. Where should your return array come from? It should come from maths. Was maths the subject? I didn't record the subject above. You just close it. Yeah, it's still maths. So, okay, so look up the value XLOOKUP. Mistake. X lookup. Look up this value, comma, from this range, comma, give us the result from here. Also, so now we can, maybe let me include the use of function now. That is, if you do not find something, we can enter a string here and say, more or less, not a student. Just something like that, not a student, comma, so that's the function, the not a student, we entered it as a string that if you don't find the value there, return back not a student as the entry value, then you enter a comma again, what's the exact, want exact match, and search mode, we don't need that at the moment. So we want exact match and we close our bracket and we have it. So as we can see, the function still works very well. Where is Jenny? This is Jenny. And for the match result for Jenny, it's 19. We can change the name to Ants and we're still going to get the same result from Ants, which is 16. So this is how the XLOOKUP works. It's just to change the name to matter. You're still going to have the same result for matter. So this saves a lot of time whereby you can look up a value without having to go through it. if we are to use the VLOOKUP in this function, so VLOOKUP, what value are we looking for? This. What is the table array? This is the table array. The column we want it to return value from 1, range exact. Shows it. So we can see what is it telling us not available, because it's considering the argument to be wrong. VLOOKUP always wants to return the value in the last column. So that's the way it works. So we can see the same formula that we used in the previous exercise with the same data, but a change in the column of the data makes the function VLOOKUP not feasible in this scenario. And that's why there are multiple ways to carry out a calculation. It's just that sometimes some work perfectly well, while others do not. So I did this exercise so that we can see a difference in the VLOOKUP as well as the XLOOKUP function, though both are lookup functions. There's also another one which is just the lookup. So it's this more or less like the first set of the lookup function. And as we can see, there's also the HLOOKUP, but going through all the lookup functions will just be like here, taking our time here. So they work a similar way. It's just for you to look at the argument, follow the argument. You're going to know whether it works for your scenario best. And if not, you can always switch to the next function that helps you in doing that. So we are 55 minutes past the hour, and we are going to go on 10 minutes break. So this is another function. After this, we're going to go on our 10 minutes break. So this, it's another function whereby we can use the XLOOKUP. So for the VLOOKUP as well, it has issues returning 3 answers. That is, these are 3 answers whereby we want not just the math score now, we want to get other subjects as well. Return the maths, the physics, as well as the chemistry score. As we saw in the previous one, even though this is properly arranged, if we use our VLOOKUP function, it's going to return only the chemistry and not both. Why? Because it returns just the last formula. So the VLOOKUP function, what value do you want it to look up? Lookup and where's the table? This is the entire table. What column is it? Now we need more than one column. So that's the first argument. We can't enter, include 1, include 2, we can't inform it to enter 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's where there's already an issue. And then what number of columns are you going to indicate? So that's why for this function, the best is the X lookup. So we start again with our equal to sign. We say look up. What value? Lookup and, which is F2, reference now. And now we can say what's other, the lookup array, where is it? It's still under name. So lookup ends under the variable what? Name, the header name. This is where it changes. Before we're looking for just the math score. Now we can include more than just the math score because we want it to actually return 3 values, that is return something from the maths, the physics, as well as the chemistry. So we are not just stopping with the maths now. We are extending the table all the way to include the remaining 2 as well. We close it as well. Oh, I didn't use the not found function then, so I'll probably use it here. Let me not forget. So not a student or not our student. Didn't write the exams. So didn't write the exams, comma. So what do we want to look for? We want to look for exact match as well. Exact match, we don't need the search mode now. So we close it and we press enter. While doing that, we didn't need to writes the formula here again and here again. Why? Because we told the XLOOKUP function that the return array we want you to return is include both physics and chemistry alongside math. And that's why we consider this entire range and not just the math range as we were doing before. So, and that's why just we enter the function under math, but it's returned it all the way. So that's the way it works. Same thing, and we can find the answer under AND. So this is ANDs, and the answers correspond. So if I change this to Scott, the answers are going to match Scott. So this is the lookup function. It just looks up the value in the table without us having to do anything. So if I should enter, okay, Gazar. So as we can see here, it's writing it because of the space if we widen it. So Gazar is not on this list, and hence Gazar didn't take the exam. And that's why the result for Gazar is didn't take the exam. So if we change it, Donna, we have back our results. Well, because Donna did take the exam, and these are the results. So that's for XLOOKUP and the advantages it has over VLOOKUP. So we have questions, and yeah, I'll take that before we go on break. Yeah, Chante, you can ask a question, please.
Thank you, Mr. Abdul. So I just want to ask that, so the main difference between VLOOKUP and XLOOKUP is that VLOOKUP is limited, correct?
Yeah, it's limited. Your XLOOKUP will be limited as well. If I want to return just the maths and chemistry score without the physics, and then the physics is in between now, I'm going to have an issue returning the score. And in situation like this, because if we record the XLOOKUP function, this is it, XLOOKUP. So this is the lookup. The first thing you're saying is this value, we want you to, someone should be muted, please, and we'll wait for their time. And then this is the range we want you to look at it from. We are saying the return array. So the return array, I can't say this whole array and then it's not going to return the one in between, because it's considering it that I want the three values. And it's not possible for me to say, okay, this one and then this one. See, the moment I switch to the other side, it's ignored this value and thought I only wanted it to return this value. So they are all limited within their own scope, and that's why there are multiple functions, which we will learn as in the course of this class today as well, and if not today, tomorrow, that when you have limitations like this, you can always put conditions and then include other functions as well. So to solve a problem, you don't have to use just one function. You can include a function in another function, even 3, 4, it's allowed. So, but as you mentioned, truly correct that yes, the VLOOKUP is more limited than the XLOOKUP. Very true. So you can continue with your question, please.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That's all. Shante?
Yes, from me
Okay.
here, yes.
Thank you very
you,
much.
I'm good.
Okay, you're welcome. Yeah, so Saidat, please go on.
Yeah, sorry, my question.
Yes, please.
You know, when you were explaining the VLOOKUP, you said if we drag down, it would help fix the values of all the other names. For example, the subject, we use the subject biology. So if we want to impute the cost of the fees for all the other courses as well. So I want to ask in XLOOKUP as well, if we drag down, is it going to help fix the values for all the other names, the scores for all the other names as well? I don't know if you get my question.
Okay. Yes, I do. So what we did to to fix the problem was not by dragging down, but by using absolute referencing, which is the $sign. So absolute referencing means the word absolute, like don't leave this range. You must stick to this range forever until I tell you to do otherwise. So
Yes.
X lookup, if we also do the same thing, it's also going to shift until we use absolute referencing. That is, don't move away from this position, because the answer we want you to compare from, the table is fixed. Here is where the values we are searching for is not fixed. And that's why in our argument, the first one, which is saying E2, we are not using absolute referencing for it because it is the cost and it is changing per student. But for the table and the fee value we want you to look for, it is fixed, and hence we don't want you to move away. This table has a limited range. The moment you go either to the column side or to the row side below it, you're already going into empty space. And that's why we use absolute referencing. So I hope that clarifies.
No, not entirely.
Okay.
In X lookup now, can you please, can you go to the sheet? Yes, exactly. When you wanted to look for you first did the values for, I think, Hans. When you wanted to look for the value for another student, that's Scott, you changed, yes, you changed this where your cursor is there currently, you changed it to Scott and it brought out all the other values.
Yeah.
If we want to change this whole F column now, as in want to fix, oh, I don't know.
Okay, so in this case,
if we want it to, if we want it to bring out all the scores of the students and arrange it as per the way it's arranged on the other side as well, are we going to use referencing, or can it only bring out just one value at a time?
I get your question now. So if I want to include, like I want to search for 3 students and not just one person like this.
Yes, exactly.
Of course, I'll have to use absolute referencing. And the absolute referencing, as we have here, is also going to affect if we record the VLOOKUP when we're writing it. The first one is the name, which is in F2. That one we can change. So it's now, that one we don't need absolute referencing for it. But the range where it's going to be looking up values, that is the name, we can make that absolute referencing. F4. Oh, no, I did not want to include that. Yeah, I'm not including the F parts, just the range here. So I can make the name range, yeah, and not the F2. The F2 changes. So the name range, that is this place, make it absolute. The data range as well, that is where it's going to look from. We don't want it to be including empty space. We can make that absolute as well. And it doesn't change anything from the formula. Like, we only made it fixed more, if anything. So if I decide to create a name below, let's say Stan, and then I don't need to listen, I can just click on it like this and drag it down. And as we can see here, the name for Stan, the scores are also correct.
Okay.
Thank you. But if I had not done that before this, the values may be wrong, but in this situation, they will not be wrong. Why? Because this is the next one after this. And so it's going to just move and start considering this range. And for our name example, Stan is still within the range. But if I had entered Mark, Mark will not show any result. So I believe that's clear now.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, this Ifoma, please ask a question.
In the first example, VLOOKUP example,
okay,
you got values from another sheet.
Yes, please.
So can you do that? Can you do that same with XLOOKUP to get
Yes,
values, an array of values from another sheet and transfer to the sheet you want the values in? How would you do that, please?
Yes, so it's a similar thing, like it's a similar pattern. Let's say, okay, I'm going to create a new sheet. This is a new sheet. So we have a new sheet here. And then let me copy this table. Okay, let me press this tape. Oh, let me forget about that. So we need to increase it and make it wide. I think this should be more than enough. So now just clear the contents, and then to use XLOOKUP for it, so we want to look for the values on this sheet using this table, and then give the answer on another sheet. So it will be XLOOKUP, same way. What value do we want it to return? Want it to return the one in A2 because of the way the formula is, it's blocking the value, but of course it's the name that's there in A2. So, comma, the lookup array where we want it to go and look up, then we just need to move to where it is. So, which is in A3. The moment I clicked on that sheet, you can see Excel automatically created this start reference. And then I just need to mark the range. So that's the range I want you to look at. Don't forget the formula is still reflecting, which is that's the lookup range, comma. I want you to return value from this range as well. And because of the range is on a different sheet, Excel is also showing us this example 3 abbreviated as before the value. So same thing, I close that. Now I don't want to include, don't do anything. So comma, exact value 0, and I close it, and then I tell it. So for donor, it is 14, 62, and 22. And if we go back, it should be 14, 62, and 22.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And it's also, of course, yeah, dynamic as well. So 10, 11. That answers the question. Okay, you're welcome. So in the absence of no question, we are 10 minutes past the hour. So we can take our 10 minutes break and return back by less than 20 minutes past the hour. If there are other questions, yeah, you could ask during the break. So see you back in the next 10 minutes.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so to continue with the class, yeah, I hope you enjoyed our break. So it's both for VLOOKUP and XLOOKUP, you can deal with them on different sheets. And same goes for like, yeah, functions, other functions as well. So it's just to give it the right reference, and then Excel identifies that's the data you need. Yeah, so in this situation, we are trying to get the value for physics, and then not maths, not chemistry. But as we have seen so far, so we just need to identify that cell. Still using our XLOOKUP. So most of the examples are for the XLOOKUP function. So we have our XLOOKUP. We need to look for the value, that is, what's the criteria to look for? Look for Stan. Where should Stan be? Stan should be here. So look for Stan's name here. And then we are now saying what should be the return array, which we want it to be physics. So now we are not selecting the entire range, we just want one of them. So that's Stan. Not if not found, we've already shown that example, so skip it. And then the exact, here return the exact. So we close the parentheses. We have the physics score for Stan to be 10. So similar, we can change the name and the function works perfectly. So for John, we have John, who is 92. We have for Mark, which is 91. So you can always choose for one of them, and then you can choose for the entire range as well. So I believe that is top up to the previous one. Then this is a situation whereby, yes, we have separate tables. Let's say you have one table, you asked for a data and it was sent to you and you're given, okay, this is this table. And while going through it, you just discover that, oh, sorry, I didn't receive this thing, like it's not containing all the values. And you are told, oh, sorry, there's another table that was like maybe half or this thing. So if you're dealing with multiple tables and you're still looking for the same value. So as we can see here, we have the names, we have the maths, physics, and chemistry result, names, maths, physics, and chemistry. And these are different students. So we have 7 here, we have another 7 here. So 14 students in total, but then on different table. This also could be on like a different sheet. It's just about referencing it. The formula is still the same. So how do you use VLOOKUP in this situation? And as I mentioned, one of the good things about programming or like data analysis in general is that you need to visualize and create a logical explanation behind what you want to do. So generally what we're going to say is look for the value here, and when you don't say it, find the value here. So that's just a simple thing we're going to explain in this scenario. So which will be a way we can use our if not found function. Generally, before we just said it should say no exam or didn't take the exam. So, but then we can tell you that if you don't find it here, could you look at this function for us, please? Can't you see my, you can't see my screen. Someone is saying I should share my screen. Please, is it that you can see my screen, others?
We can. Well, I can see your screen.
Okay, perhaps the person should go out of the section and join again. I believe that should resolve this issue. Okay, so to start this function, we're going to tell it the same one, lookup. We have the lookup function. We want you to look for a name. So that's the criteria. Where's the looking up range? Look for it under names. You're welcome. So look for it under names. And then we have a comma. So look for it under names. That's where we wanted to look for the name because it's under the variable name, under the header name. So look for any under this set of names. If seen, what should you return? We wanted to return, I've forgotten the argument we're looking for. Okay, the math score. So we wanted to return the math score. Look for Annie under these names. The math score, so which refers to this, for it under the math score. However, you are saying if not found, we automatically say if you don't find this, carry out another VLOOKUP. I'm going to search for it in this table. So a way to do that is what you call, you can include a function inside another function, and it applies for multiple functions like that. You can try to do something and then do it again. So you're trying to do the same function, like carry out the same exercise multiple times. So it's called nested functions. It could be nested if, it could be nested. So depending on the function, in this case is a nested X lookup. So a lookup inside another lookup. We're going to write X lookup again. Excel accepts it. You don't have to write equal to. So if not found, X lookup, opening an X lookup under the criteria if not found. And so the moment we did that, it's now bringing out for this new X lookup. We need to write in, fill in the criteria as we did with the first one. So which lookup value should they still look for? It's still A2, that is A2 or further. The reference cell, we still want it to look for Annie. Where should we look for it now? Look for it under this range, which is still a similar set of names. What do we want you to return? Return these. And if not found now, we can then say, yeah, not a student. Didn't take the exam. So then take the exam, and we close the parentheses back. So we've answered a final not, if not found. If you have a third table, you could have included the third table there. So what should be the match? Should be exact, 0, and then we close it. The moment we close is, if you look at it, Excel identifies the bracket as red, and that's because it's returning it as red for this one as well. And then it's treat everything as if not found of the first lookup function. You can see it both, if not found of the first lookup function. So we write a comma, and then what is the search we want for the first one? Exact match as well. And now we can close the function and press equal to. I'll press the enter button rather. So as we can see ourselves, Annie is not here at all. She's on the second table. So what Excel did is searched for Annie on this, so that no, not here. Then looked at the new table and found out that, oh, there's a name and the score is what? 68. So we can keep it dynamic as well. Change to Michael. And we're going to have the score of Michael. And if we change it to something on this table, the score is still going to be the same, because if we change it to Scott, the math score for Scott is still 72. Why? As the formula reads, search for it here first. If not, that's when you go here. So since it has seen Scott here, there is no need for Excel to proceed with the remaining part of the formula. And if we change it to Jenny, we are also going to have our answers, which is 19. So the formula works. And yeah, go right here, Anna. So you can write Anna, who is not on our table, and then you're going to say this thing, the last if not function didn't take the exam. So this is just to show that, yeah, there are situations whereby you could have more than one table and you need to carry out the same function. So what do you do? I hope the nested X loop wasn't confusing. If there are, could you please raise your hands now before we move further? The absence of none, I believe it's clear. So this is an example whereby we're dealing with sales. And for sales, so we have set of names. These are sales representative. This is the sales they've made, and then we want to pay them an extra commission depending on how much you sold, or there's an hand raised. Yeah, Toya, please, could you ask a question? Leave it as the last slide, previous slide.
Sorry, actually, I joined the meeting very late.
Okay.
I joined the meeting very late because I couldn't log in on time.
Okay.
So please, can you, this first question, sorry, is you started from X lookup, right? Okay, if yes, please, can you explain this table very well? Because what I know is, okay, can you please explain this table very well, please?
Okay, so the table generally itself, unfortunately, it started late, but I'll try to do a brief overview. The class is being recorded, so you'll be sure that you didn't miss much. You can just watch the video later and you're going to be updated with what we've done so far. So we have a general table of students and their grades. And then we need you to find the maths result of a student. Of course, this is a small table whereby we could just easily look at the table or scores. This is the math score. This is the chemistry score. But let's say you have a table where you're dealing with about 300 students. It's going to be time consuming for you to start scrolling all through, or to start using like the found function and start signing what's this person's name. But since we know the student's name we are searching for, their math score or their physics or chemistry score, we can use a function called the lookup. So we have VLOOKUP, we have XLOOKUP. We've done an example with the VLOOKUP and we've seen the limitation the function has over the distance, over the XLOOKUP. So what we are trying to do is that we know the name of this person and we are searching for the math score. Excel, please help me find this person's math score without me going to stroll over it. So the XLOOKUP itself, as the function reads, this is the XLOOKUP. The first argument is expecting you to put in is what's the lookup value? That is, what do you want to go and look up? We know it's a name, so go and search for this name. What is the range? That is, where should you go and look for this name? Because that's the first thing. Since it is a variable that is under name, it's a value under name, the header is name and their names. So we just tell it, look for that name under this. Those are the range of names. Why we are marking this is because those are the range of names. Then we are, if you can see it here as well, that's the bold one. The moment we enter a comma, it moves to the next argument, that is return array. What do we want it to return? We want it to return the math score. Then we can close that as well. So that's the range. We want you to return the math score from this range of values. Note that the reference range, that is where we are saying you should look for, must be the same number of lengths with what we are saying you should return from. That is, there must be a corresponding value from where it is looking to what it is returning. Like here we have 7 rows. We have 7 rows here as well. So after that, if not found, that was when we included this table. If not found, but that is just including another XLOOKUP within an XLOOKUP. But let's say a simple example, we skip that for now. And then this exact match is saying that, do we want it to look for the exact person or want it to look for something that is just similar to it or is closer to it? That's the word approximation. So mostly using it for numbers, that should it be a number like greater than or lesser than 8? And that's why you can choose the -1 or the 1 or the 2. The 2 is called a word card, whereby you use an asterisk to carry out the function, which will do, let me see, maybe I'll try to do a function of that before the end of the class. So in this case, we want an exact match, which is 0. For the search mode, as you can see, this match mode as well. The general Excel, we don't need to enter this 0, but as we're reading the function initially, Excel automatically goes for the exact value. But then you might not want the exact value, and that's when you can choose a different display. Yeah, so that's where we can look for a different distance. So all these ones in the square bracket, they are not compulsory. They are optional functions that we can ignore or we can include as we deem fit for our function. So we close it and we press equal to. Why is the writing not available? Because the name we are looking for is not in this range and it's in this table. And then we just need to enter the distance, the next lookup function inside this. So I think the basic part of the function, hope is clear to you, whereby we can just simply write John here, and then it will bring a result. Why? Because John is part of the normal first row. So was that clear to explain the function of, to explain what the function does? Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's clear.
Okay, you're welcome.
It's a color.
You're welcome.
Hello.
Yeah, Gladys,
Yes,
are you about to ask a question?
yes, ask the question, please. On this table right now, that we are currently on, what of in a situation where you want to ignore, let's assume we want to ignore column C, and you want to reference a data, or want to reference something in B and D. Do we have a function that we ignore those fixes and then look for the value in column B and D?
Okay, so when you want to do things like this, you it's called it's a two-way. A simpler way is just you enter for B alone, separate, and then just beside it, you enter the entire formula again for D alone. Just like the way we have done for maths now, we are entering maths alone. I could just enter the same formula and say, yeah, X lookup. Look for the names between these as well. The return array, then I select chemistry. If not found, ignore, exact match 0, and I close. And in this situation, it's going to return both the math and the chemistry for John. So this will be like the easiest approach to go about it. You just replicate it in the other cell. And if not, then you have to use what we call a conditional formatting. So you have to include a conditional statement. Or we use, I believe you should be able to use index. So what you do there is you have to refer to this index and tell it that, yes, go to this cell and split out this result. But for VLOOKUP or for XLOOKUP on its own, there's no way you can resolve this without involving another formula. So you need another formula to carry out this function alongside XLOOKUP. Hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Leave them none at the moment. Yeah, so we have a sales data whereby we have our sales rep. These are their names, and this is the amount they've sold for a period of time. It could be a month. So this is the period. This is the amount they've all sold for a month period, and then we have like a company policy in order to pay them bonus based on the amount they've sold. So if you're able to pay sell up to about 5,000, you'll be getting a 2% commission. If 10,000, 4%, 25, 7, 50, 10, 100, 12% on the amount you've sold. So that would be like a bonus towards your maybe an added amount towards your salary. And if you are to do this like plain maths calculation, that means we look at this amount. This, for example, 48,000. 48,000 is greater than 5, is greater than 10, is greater than 25, but it's not up to 50. So that means the person is not qualified for 10%, but rather it's still going to be 7%. So it is greater than 25, but not up to 50. So of course, companies do not pay people in this situation, even if it is 4999999. Like it's still like you're not up to the criteria, so you still need to go for the one below it. So that means the person is going to be paid 7% of the 25. that is, if the person is going to be paid 7% of what the person has sold. But then it's not going to be just this and 7% here. We need to do the calculation. So that will be 7% times the value. It's not 7% times the sales. This is just a criteria to say how much your percentage is going to be. It's going to be the percentage, that is the commission times the sales, which means we need to first come and look for the value. Whatever the person has sold here, we need to come and look for the standing on this side, and then look for, oh, what's the commission going to be on this side? I hope like here we're sure of this, we're getting the explanation.
No, sir.
You're not getting the explanation?
Not getting the explanation. Yes.
Okay. Sorry, your mic is a bit bad. Perhaps you try changing your location a bit. Yeah, could you say what the part you didn't get?
Yes, can you please repeat how you go about the commission?
Okay,
they are not having the same sales value, and there's no formula in the commission column to show whether it is greater than, less than a particular value. So how do we go about that?
Okay.
I hope my question is clear.
Yes, it is. So this is it. This exact value is not here. But what we can recall is while we're using the XLOOKUP formula, it's just this X lookup. We can see under the match criteria when we're filling the orders, there's not just exact match. There is exact or smaller than, the next smaller than, there's exact and the next greater than. So that's where the match mode comes into play. Provided you understand the fact that for this person that earned 48,208, the commission that we consider for the person won't be the 50,000 range, which is 10%. Why? Because the person has not met the criteria. The criteria to be to earn 10% is this 50,000 benchmark, which in this case the person is like about 2,000 short. So hence the person has to go for the one lower, which is the commission attached to 25. So the moment you understand this as an explanation, once we start entering the formula, I think it will be better this time. So yeah, you're about to have
I'm clear.
move on. Okay, thank you. Okay, so now we call on our XLOOKUP function again. XLOOKUP. What value do we want to look up? We want to compare these sales with these sales, right? So this is the value we are looking for. Where are we looking for it from? We are looking for it from E, because that's where we want to compare it, right? We are looking at it from E. And then we want it to return this. This is the range we want it to return. So what value are you looking for? You're looking for this. You want it to look for it from where? From here. You want it to return what? Return any of these. And if not found, which is not, in this case, it's not possible. Even if the number is more than 10,000, then since there is no criteria here, it's going to be using the 12,000 as a reference. I mean, the 12% as a reference. So we ignore that. And this is where we come to the exact match. So in this case, we know it's going to go for the next smaller item. So we can't use one, but we're going to use the one of exact match or next smaller item. Before we've been using just exact match alone, but in this case, we're going to use exact or next smaller item. So we click on this function. And then what do we have? We close that. We don't want to have anything to do with the search mode. So we close the bracket and we press what? Equal to. So once we press rather the enter button, we can see for this it's returning what? The 7%, which as we mentioned earlier. If we drag this down, we're going to be having errors. Why? Because for this one, this is 11,000 plus it is lesser than 25, but it is 10,000. It's supposed to be returning 4%, right? But because of we need to use absolute referencing, so we need to go back here. And then for the range where we are looking at it from, because if we click on this, for example, this is what I was unable to do on the previous one because it was on a different sheet. Let's say I click on, this is the first one we did. When I click on it now, you can see the reference in the box. The box is containing this area as well as this area. If I go to the one below it, we can see it is still the same range, but it has shifted. And we don't want it to shift. We want to lock it that here. So you must consider it from this range to this range, from this range to this range. So, and if we'll be intending to drag it down or just replicate it without having to do multiple, we just need to make it absolute referencing. So where we need to be absolute referencing is this section, which is E2 to E6. We press our Control F4 again, and then the value it returns, which is this, we press our Control F again. And now we can press Enter. And after doing that, we can simply just take it all the way down without issues. So you can see Excel also notified us because if you see before there was some error sign or warning sign rather that we're showing at the side here, but now it's gone because Excel knew that we're already considering a range that was empty, which shouldn't be so. So now for our 10,000, for our 100,000 plus, we can see it's considering what? The 10,000, because as I said, even when it is more than that, even if you have sold 1 million for the company's policy is we're not going beyond 12% payment. So for that instance, it goes back to the 12%. And for the 11,000, which was not available before, we can now see it is 4%. And it's same thing applies to everything. This is 78. It is more than 50, but it is not up to 100. So it's 10%, which is, this is in the decimal place. But of course, we know the commission. What we need is the amount and not the commission showing the percentage itself. So it means we need this value to be multiplied by this in order to get the actual amount that we paid as commission to whatever salary it is before. Then it means we need to include a formula there that is multiplying this with this. We can simply just include a new cell here and do this times this. It's as simple as that. It's not going to be this time. So a simple function is just writing this times the asterisk, of course, multiplied by this, and then we'll have an answer. But this is, yeah, not a bad way to approach it, don't get me wrong, but then we can carry out all the functions within just one function as well. So I'm going to close this, like clear it. So I just deleted that and clear it. So all we need to add to this formula we already know before is just that we have an X lookup that look up this value. We can put it at the beginning or we can put it at the end. So all we just need to write is that here, so multiply, that's the asterisk sign, by what? By B2, by the value there, and then we press, and now we can, yeah, repeat it. And so it applies to everything now. We didn't need to create a new column. We've been able to multiply, search for their commission on a separate table, and then calculate the commission they will be paid based on their sales. All in just one formula, or like in one cell, like just entering the formula all together. I hope that was carrying out the function now. I hope it made it clearer. If there are questions, feel free to do so. Like you're asking.
Hello, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for the class.
You're welcome.
It's just one question. Just that how you had that commission thing. I got everything. Just up to this, how you converted these percentages now, percentage commission now to original. Okay, yeah. How you? I just wanted to see that how you were able to. How you enter the formula now? Yeah, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Yeah, it's good you understood the OX lookup formula. That's from here all the way down to here. It's understood. And as I said, initially, we don't need the number. So we don't need it to be 7%. Like we know it is based on this table. Okay, it is 7%. But then it should be 7% of the sales. That's the normal calculation. So since it is 7% of the sales, all we just need to include in the formula is multiply by the sales value. So here we are saying you should multiply by the sales value, and then the reference of the sales is B2. So, and that's why we are saying B2 here. And with that equal to, and the multiplication is done. Hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
you're welcome. Yeah, Gladys, you could go home if you have any question, please.
Yeah, I want to know why you put the dollar sign.
Okay, the dollar sign, why I kept the dollar sign here is to keep it absolute referencing. When I didn't place it there before, a good example is, I could just remove it again, just by F4. Okay. So the dollar sign is called to make it an absolute referencing. That is, don't move away from this region. So let's say we have this, let me even remove the multiplication sign so that we can see it better. So we know for this amount, if we compare it to this table now, it should be 7%, right? Let's replicate it down. We can see there is not available like caution sign. And if we click on it, Excel tells us what? A value is not available to the formula or function. So why is there this error? And for some of them, it's calculating. If we go to this place and we click on this, it shows us the cell referencing. So for the first one, we said it should what? Look for the value, that is, compare the sales here with the sales here. You can see it's like, yeah, it's covering the entire sales. And for the return value, it's covering the entire return region as well. If we move to the one below it, and we click on this place as well, we can see the box has changed location. That is, it is not considering this one above, but it has moved one way downward. And that's why when you do not use absolute reference for a region that needs it, Excel will keep moving either horizontal, that is in a row over columns, or in a column over rows, because it believes that you didn't use absolute reference because you want it to be changing. We are not using it for the first one, which was B2, because we want it to keep changing to the next B element. So under B, move to B3, move to B4, move to B5, move to B6, and so on. But for the sales region, we don't want it to keep changing. If we do that, let's go to maybe like the one here, and we click like this. You can see it's not even reading anything at all, because it had moved from this top, it had moved down. The rows it is still considering is 5, but then it's moving, which we don't want it to do. So for it to prevent it from moving, that's why we need absolute referencing, which you can just press the F4 function. So it places the dollar sign before the E, meaning don't change the column, and it places it before the 2 as well as don't change the row. If we leave it in front of only the E, the rows will still change. If we leave it in front of, so that's why we need to place it before both the E, which refers to the column, as well as before the 2, which refers to the row, that just stay fixed, don't move anywhere else. So we'll do the same for the range as well, F4. And now, if we run it down, we can see the warning signs I've left there and now they're in the proper form. And that's the function of absolute referencing. So you can see even down here, it's still referring to the same region. Hope that answers the question.
Yes, Mr. Kaza. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So just to include the sign again. Then so this will be all the exercise on X lookup as well as V lookup. You can see X lookup has more more range of operation than the V lookup, at least based on our exercises. The next on on our schedule is conditional formatting. But seeing that we are gone for the day, we'll stop here for today and pick up from here tomorrow. If there are further questions, feel free to ask. And you'll be receiving assignments tomorrow, which we cover for this week, as well as the exercises from last week. So sorry for the delay. Please try to go through it and be sure that try to go through the videos, and it will be sufficient for you to carry out the assignments.
Sorry, sir.
Hello?
Sorry?
Yeah, go on, please. Ononuga.
How can we get the video, sir?
The network is breaking, but I believe you were asking how you can get the video.
Yes, I'm right, sir.
Yeah, that will be shared shortly after the class, after some distant organizations will be shared to you. If you're on the Slack, platform, you get the information.
If I'm
on the Slack platform, you get the information. The organizers will send you.
Okay, thank you. I'll work on that.
In the absence of no question, that will be all from me for today. See you tomorrow, and then let's give a minute for the organizers to give any comments if there are any. So that will be all for me. Thank you. Any closing remark? Oh, Ifama. Yes, please.
Hello.
Yes, please.
All right, sir. All right. Thanks so much for the class. I was going to ask the material that you sent to us the other time that you just posted on the Slack channel, the Excel material. So I downloaded, yes, it downloaded, it opened. But I'm wondering what app was that or software, because it's not like, that is Excel really, or it has changed from being Excel. So if you want to use it now to work, so that you have to either, like we have to copy and paste it, or I don't know. I'm just thinking, I just hope that it's not when you have when we have finished the class, I don't know, we'll not start battling with it, working with that.
I'm confused. You said it's not like Excel. Like, what do you mean by it's not like Excel?
To me, I don't know. From what I opened on my system, but it's not opening with Excel app or the software now, like MS Excel. It's just like a picture of, to me, it looks like a picture. Or is it, what's it called, a Google slide or something?
Perhaps you didn't click on the right link. Let me see if I can download it myself back from the page, from right here.
So I didn't get that, huh?
I'm trying to see if I can download it myself. Yeah, I downloaded it as an Excel file. Perhaps you're clicking on the wrong button. So just click on where the Excel itself is, not the image. So where the Excel itself is, where the week is the first line. Oh, a minute. Let me share my screen again. Can you see the Slack portal?
Yes.
Okay, so you just need to click on this. Perhaps you're clicking on somewhere here. So this is this, and just click on it like this. And as you can see, it's downloaded as an Excel.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I guess you're clicking on the wrong section. Okay. I believe that will be all for today.
Are we going to be joining tomorrow through the same link?
The organizers are best and the best position to answer that.
Okay.
Would any of them help with an answer to that question? I can't answer the question, but I believe it will be communicated. So I'll pass the question down.
Okay.
So,
No,
yeah,
it's not needed.
Yeah, Ifoma, you have your hand raised. Please.
Okay.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Yeah, please ask a question. Okay, I guess they are none for now. Yeah, goodbye and have a wonderful day. Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you too.
Yeah, goodbye and
Thank
bye.
you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.